What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video. Today we're going to be doing, we're finally going to be deep diving into the Monarch Legacy of Monsters first trailer. Today we are going to be doing the Monarch Legacy of Monsters trailer 1 breakdown. I actually think it's going to be the only trailer, which would just make this the trailer breakdown, but it's finally time. Alright fellas, the day has arrived. Monarch Legacy of Monsters trailer dropped way too long ago, but we're doing the breakdown now. I seek to be the most comprehensive breakdown on the internet, fellas. Takes a minute to do the research for that. Fortunately for me, this was not like the Godzilla -1 where there's a ton of history into this, because they've created their own fictional history and I don't have to worry about real world stuff much anymore. That being said, I freaking loved the Monarch trailer, and I hope with this deep dive I can get a lot of you guys really excited for what could be a fantastic entry of the MonsterVerse. This is in many ways the first true sequel we have had in the MonsterVerse, and the first marriage between Kong Skull Island and the rest of the MonsterVerse, which has always felt quite disconnected, even in GVK. We start out the trailer with May, played by Kiersey Clemens. She turns on an analog tape, and she is most likely a tech whiz type character who Kate, Anna Sawai's character, and Kentaro, Ren Watabe's character, go in search of in order to get answers on their father Hiroshi. May is a British expat who is sharp and quick-witted with a strong sense of self-identity. She is very smart and quick to call BS on people. She deciphers code, finds loopholes, and is always steps ahead of everybody else. The shot here mirrors the opening of the Godzilla King of the Monsters trailer 2 with Madison Russell's attempt to reach Monarch. It more accurately parallels the unused version of the trying to reach Monarch scene seen in the teaser trailer for Godzilla King of the Monsters trailer 2. This shot seems to be connected to the later shot of Kentaro, Kate, and May reviewing Monarch documents, so I think this is going to be the big uncovering sequence. The Apple TV Plus logo here, as well as a lot of the other text in this trailer, is done up with this old film reel type grain. This plays into the idea that we are reviewing footage, going on this journey of self-discovery through the past, and that plays out through the whole trailer. It also mirrors the fact that Monarch is notorious for its presentations, with iconic ones being played in the MonsterVerse in every MonsterVerse entry so far. Serizawa has the Project Monarch reel, which he plays for Ford in Godzilla 2014. Additionally, the opening of that movie was done with this sort of Monarch film reel styled opening. That was set in the 1940s and 50s and will be directly touched upon in this trailer. Kong Skull Island has the presentation about the bombing of Skull Island, as well as the opening sequence for that movie. Godzilla King of the Monsters has the Old Gods presentation done by Monarch, as well as the credits sequence. And Godzilla vs. Kong, in addition to their opening credits sequence, features the Hollow Earth presentation, which is a little different, not this kind of trajectory style, and that was done by Apex. We get our first shot of Lee Shaw, played by Kurt Russell, in the modern day watching old footage of himself. Kate most likely seeks Shaw due to his connection to Bill Randa and Monarch. Shaw is a Monarch member who we believe stepped away from the organization at some point due to a difference in opinion with Monarch. The knowledge he possesses threatens to take down the entire organization. It's possible that he wanted to kill all the Titans, but people like Serizawa and Graham didn't want to, so he was alienated from Monarch. It's also possible he realized that not everybody in Monarch is who they seem to be, and there's a lot of bad people there, and so he stepped away from them for his own self-protection. Shaw is watching footage of his younger self, played by Wyatt Russell, and Keiko, played by Marie Yamamoto. She seems super happy in this footage, and it's possible Shaw is mourning her here, either because she has passed away, which I believe is most likely the case, I think she passed away in the past, or because of a potential tragic love triangle where he lost out to her, and it was a love triangle between Shaw, Keiko, and Randa, who we will be talking about later. Lee Shaw is a character who first appeared in 2014's Godzilla Awakening as a US soldier who was put in the Monarch Division and was hunting Shinomura all throughout the South Pacific. This is when he meets E.G. Serizawa. The two of them team up and Serizawa joins Monarch, and they begin to track Godzilla throughout the area as Godzilla hunts Shinomura during the 1940s and 50s. This leads back into the Castle Bravo test against Godzilla that kills Shinomura. Shaw then returns later to recruit Ishiro Serizawa into Monarch following his father's death. We see a shot of Keiko here wearing a gas mask, and she appears to be holding a Geiger counter in hand. Behind her is a young Lee Shaw and who I believe is a young Bill Randa. We then see Shaw further in the jungle take his gas mask off. He could be realizing here that the radiation that they're scanning, it's non non-toxic to humans. This is the same way that Joe Brody realizes in Godzilla 2014. The radiation in the area he was in is non-lethal to humans because, of course, the radiation they're tracking could be Titan radiation, which is non-lethal. It looks like Shaw and Randa used to be good buddies. I wonder what happened between them. Maybe a love triangle, Godzilla 1954 style, who knows? You guys have mentioned in my comments that there are potentially eggs in the background. Yeah, and I see egg shapes here for sure. I do see it, but I don't think that's what those are. I don't think they're here for that. I think they're here for something in the jungle. Otherwise, they'd be all over those things. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't be grabbing the eggs actively. I think it's like stacks of dirt or hay or something. Also, it's possible that a lot of this filming is the stuff that happened in Hawaii, of which we talked about in the recent Godzilla news and updates that covered Monarch. We then see Kate opening a locker, maybe in the school she used to work in prior to G-Day, based on the teacher's office type look we see in the background. The trailer here implies that this is where she finds Bill Randa's old bag, so maybe it's not a school. This property of Randa bag is marked WJ, which could stand for William, Bill, J, something, Randa. This bag was the first official teaser that was ever revealed for Monarch, although in that reveal image the name was burned off. The bag contains lots of junk, including audio tapes, photos of a volcano, maybe the one that Rodan's in, although Randa would have no knowledge of that because that happened after him, some maps and documents, CDs, and potential photos of Godzilla. It seems that this bag also probably contains the film reel of Randa's time on Skull Island, so I'm not really sure how Kate stumbles upon it or how it took this long to be discovered. It's possible that this bag was in the possession of Lee Shaw and he's the one who hands it over to her. Could be the case. We're taken right back into the intro sequence of the Godzilla 2014 film. We are literally taken right back to where the MonsterVerse began, and we're shown a new reel of soldiers on a beach watching as Godzilla swims ashore. This could be them watching the Castle Bravo test, although in real life they're so close to that, from this distance they would all be killed. The beach that Godzilla is swimming towards seems to match the beach that we later see him approaching in the trailer, which would be the Castle Bravo beach, so I'm not totally sure. Bill Randa, played by John Goodman, returns to the MonsterVerse. His voice comes over the speakers here stating, "I don't know if this will get to you. I hope so. I can't go back and fix all of the mistakes I made, but maybe I can leave something for the future. A legacy." Of course, this legacy is where the title comes from, Monarch Legacy of Monsters. It's the legacy of Monarch, tying these people and their family lineage into Monarch overall. We end his voiceover here by seeing new found footage he recorded while on Skull Island. I'm not really sure when he would have had time to do these vlogs considering the timeline of the 2017 film, but it could have really been happening during any number of the montages that happened in that movie. My brain tells me that this is probably after the Mother Longlegs attack due to her later appearance in this trailer and also the bamboo-looking sticks behind him. It could have been done just prior to the Mother Longlegs attack, but it really could have been done at any point. For instance, this could have been done when he went off by himself after the helicopter crash, before Packard finds him and they have that chat. There's an important thing to note here. Bill Randa is never seen with his original film camera following the helicopter crash in Kong Skull Island, and it is implied that the reel of Kong is the only one he took in that film. However, this does match up with the fact that Monarch has impossible footage of Kong during the events of Godzilla King of the Monsters. The Monarch hearing plays footage of Kong, as does Emma Russell. That means that at some point in this show, this footage that Randa took must wind up in the hands of Monarch for them to have the videos of Kong. It also means that apparently Randa recorded a shot from an identical angle of Conrad's binoculars, seeing Kong leave after the helicopter massacre, because somehow that footage is in Monarch's property, despite the fact that it was never taken in the 2017 film. Here's the other more nitpicky thing I have about this sequence. This footage shouldn't have survived. At no point in time are we told that Randa passed his belongings to anyone else, including Houston Brooks, before his death in the 2017 film. Randa is only seen with his camera that he wears around his neck throughout the film, but that is his photo camera. If we are to believe he has his video camera as well, that means it must be strapped to him somewhere, which would mean it gets eaten by the Skullcrawler. So there's no way this footage could have survived. But to be fair, his photo camera kind of spawns in at the boneyard, so who knows? Maybe it's just implied that all of his junk was strapped to other people during the whole film the whole time, so he didn't have his video camera on him in the first place, and so he can't die with it. That being said, his hat does fly off when he's eaten, so it's possible that his hat returns, which is likely the only thing that survived of his in the first place. That'd be kind of fun. I'd actually be kind of into the fact that somebody's wearing his hat. That'd be cute. The final thing that's important to note here is that Kong Skull Island remains, and I stand by it, the best film in the MonsterVerse by far. So it's nice to see that movie paid an official, proper crossover between that and the 2014 Godzilla film, because King of the Monsters kind of merges the two in a way that feels very disconnected and kind of unrelated to the original original MonsterVerse that was portrayed in the 2014 Godzilla and definitely Kong Skull Island. So this is the first direct and proper follow-up on both of those original MonsterVerse films. It's actually really cool to see those films touched upon in a really satisfying way. Bill Randa playing such a large role in this show is very interesting and unexpected. Almost as unexpected as the fact that Apple TV revealed not just a young Bill Randa, but the name to be Kate Randa, implying that Kate is somehow related to Bill Randa. Kate could be his granddaughter, and the way that could work is that Kate's mother has been reported to be a character named Caroline. Caroline is Hiroshi's first wife, and it seems certain that Kate and Kentaro would be half-siblings. So it's possible that the relation comes from Caroline, who's Randa's daughter with probably Keiko. After Caroline and Hiroshi divorce, it's possible she changes her name back to Randa. I can let go of all of the where did the camera come from nitpicks because although they're fun to point out, they're not too serious. It's just fun stuff, and I'm happy to see the 2017 film tied so heavily into this new iteration of the MonsterVerse because it truly is, in my opinion, the best the MonsterVerse has been. So I'm happy to go back to our peak. Happy to go back to where we began. Even if you're not a fan of that movie, or even if you're not a fan of the 2014 Godzilla film, it's happy to see the original MonsterVerse developed in a satisfying, interesting new way. We then see the aftermath of San Francisco, and we're going to get some more nitpicks here. This area is looking much worse than when we left it in 2014, and based on the lack of smoke in this area, I'd say this is probably set sometime after the 2014 film, although it's possible that this is directly following up on that because we see some helicopters flying around, but I don't know. I would say that this happens at least a couple days after the 2014 film. It's also interesting here that the damage on the Golden Gate Bridge is far worse than when we left it in the 2014 film. Far more of the bridge is collapsed, I'm not sure why. We also see that the Bay Bridge in the background has a similar hole in it now, despite the fact that during Godzilla's victory roar, it was completely intact. Additionally, the Salesforce Tower can be seen destroyed in the skyline here of San Francisco, and that's impossible considering that 1,070-foot building was not built in 2014. It was built in 2018. Its presence in this 2014 skyline does not match the Godzilla 2014 movie because, of course, it couldn't. It also doesn't match the San Francisco skyline seen in Godzilla King of the Monsters. These silly continuity errors aside, I do really appreciate the widespread apocalyptic destruction seen here because it mirrors that from the 2019 film. We also see the Bay Bridge destroyed in the 2019 film, so now continuity error complete. Now we're just saying, I guess it broke sometime in between Godzilla 2014 and this Monarch show, and then it appears in Godzilla King of the Monsters already broken. I'm good with that. I don't know why I did, but structural integrity failed after the Mutos. Who knows? If the thing could fall down because of an earthquake, it could fall down because of a Muto. Just saying. Lee Shaw is talking to who I think might be Meg, played by Jasmine Lu Cuckoo. This is in an interrogation room. This has the same brick background as the room he was seen in while watching footage of himself from the past earlier. I believe that this is a Monarch interrogation room and they're interrogating about what he did in the past and why he went rogue. The publicity photo from this show of Tim and Duvall watching over his interview here suggests exactly that. Shaw tells us that the world is on fire and he decided to do something about it. This is cut with a shot of the nuke that is used against Godzilla, implying that his decision was to kill the Titans. Shaw tells us that Monarch's hopes, dreams, and ambitions were to protect their world and ours. It's a very Sam Coleman line. In this case, the there is referring to the Titans, which Monarch wanted to study and keep safe. He says that it's what we wanted Monarch to be, implying that he was one of the original founding members to join. It also implies that that's not what the organization has become, which could mean the reason he leaves is not because he wanted to kill the Titans, but because he wanted to protect them. This Monarch series will deal with people who are not so good working within the organization of Monarch, and it's possible that those are the people who have him captured. We also see a shot of a soldier who I think is James, played by Charlie Huison. He's the one painting the anti-Godzilla symbol on the side of the Castle Bravo nuke used against Godzilla. The attention to detail here is fantastic, with the bomb looking nearly identical to the one used in the 2014 intro, with the only difference being that this one's a little darker green. It could just be the color filter used in the 2014 film, that could be the reason it looks brighter, and the painting here is less drippy than it was in the 2014 film, but that's fine because the attention to detail is phenomenal, right down to the placement of the bolts and the handrails. Like I said, other than those few details, this is a stunning recreation of the bomb from Godzilla 2014, even down to the way the soldier overshoots the line going across Godzilla and it sticks off the bottom of the circle. This also retcons Godzilla Awakening, where in that comic a different depiction of the bomb getting painted is seen. The bomb also looks totally different in that comic. Thankfully we're retconning that despite the inclusion of Lee Shaw. Our main gang sits around the computer and reviews Monarch's documents, with most of the text here being redacted. Redacted documents are a staple of the MonsterVerse dating all the way back to the opening credits of the 2014 film. Here all the text text is very insignificant, with the only words being left uncensored being pretty meaningless. A lot of the documents here also repeat over and over again multiple times, and the only fun detail to notice here is the Monarch Eyes Only tag, which has been used in the MonsterVerse several times. We then see who I think might be Hiroshi, our main central character who the show revolves around, even though it doesn't sound like he's going to be on screen much, standing in the desert with what appears to be an Oppenheimer-style nuclear gadget hooked up to a truck behind him. I think he's trying to lure a Titan out to maybe kill it. I mean, maybe this is like a prototype Orca or something, but I highly doubt that. That just wouldn't line up with canon at all, so I do think it's kind of like a bomb. This setting might line up with the shot of Shaw we see later in the trailer. This is where Shaw makes his offer in the desert, could be. We then see a Bat Titan fly overhead. Could not be a Titan, could just be a super species. I don't know based on the size, I don't really care. It's a bat kaiju, it's awesome. We see it fly through the trees, and this bat-like kaiju has been speculated by many to be Camazotz, who is now making a live-action debut. It isn't though, because it doesn't look anything like Camazotz. The Kingdom Kong comic book makes it clear that Camazotz's first appearance is in 2019 during Ghidorah's Alpha Call, so unless this is just an unreported sighting of the creature with a massive design change, it's a new guy. It's a new guy. It's also been noted that this kaiju has a similar tale to that of the new Titan appearing in Godzilla x Kong the New Empire, who was first teased in the Operation Monarch crossover event. Now, if you're wondering why I don't name drop the Titan, it's because his name's not public yet. The only reason you know is because people with a lot less integrity than me have just blabbed about it. Anyways, it's possible that the reason the tales are similar here is because they could be related in some way, although I think it's more of a case of parallel thinking on the design crew part. I do, however, believe that this scene is set on Skull Island, and I'm not expecting Godzilla to go toe-to-toe with this guy as a result. I think that this Titan could be saved for like a future battle with Kong in a future season or something, but I think it's more of like just a creature on Skull Island. The shot of the two people holding hands strikes me as probably being between Rando and Keiko due to the way she's dressed. It's a little more old-fashioned, and if it is Randa, then the bandage on his hand mirrors the one he gets on the opposite hand in the 2017 film. The shot of Kate crying here looks like it's set underground, tying us back into the idea that in order to uncover Monarch's secrets, we must dig deep, literally. We see a group of retro Monarch members with Shaw leading the charge climbing up onto another gadget very similar to the one we saw Hiroshi with in the desert. I think that this is a prototype unit, probably for a build used for deep exploration. I think that due to the window on the side, it could be even used for underwater exploration. Maybe this is even a prototype unit meant to explore deeper caverns on the Earth, building towards the Hollow Earth itself. The suits here remind me personally of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and they also strongly resemble the spacesuits from Invasion of Astro Monster that were iconically worn by astronauts Glenn and Fuji as they battled the Exilians and Ghidorah alongside Rodan and Godzilla. What a wonderful Showa era tie-in. I love that stuff, and I hope we see more of that in the MonsterVerse, because classic Godzilla Easter eggs are what keep us going. We then have this wonderful moment where Kate comes face to face with a Godzilla shelter notice. This just has really great real-world weight placed upon it, kind of going back to what I was talking about in one of my -1 videos with the Godzilla Memorial in the Godzilla vs. Biollante film and how important and incredible that little moment was. This seems to be upon her arrival to Japan, with a sign appearing both behind her and on the floor in front of her. This evacuation route has been spotted all over the set photos, with a variant showing Godzilla's atomic breath. Interestingly here, the silhouette does not have Godzilla matching the 2014 dorsal plates. It's brand new dorsal plates, so maybe Godzilla's dorsal plates will evolve over the course of the show, or maybe this is just an artist's rendition who didn't really get a proper look at Godzilla. Kate is probably traumatized seeing this, as it reminds her of the attack on the Golden Gate Bridge, which she is a survivor of. A Godzilla evacuation route sign in Japan is just some classic Godzilla stuff right here, although I don't think Godzilla really has ever had one of those in the past before, and I don't think Godzilla will make landfall in Japan on this show. It's just nice to see the human response to the Titans, and it's exactly what has been missing from the MonsterVerse sequels up until now. It's also nice to build upon Japan, Godzilla's home, a place that we really haven't visited in the MonsterVerse since the 2014 film. Shaw also tells us to stop chasing monsters here, so maybe he's trying to tell our Monarch gang, the ones digging into Monarch, to back off. You guys are getting in over your heads and this is dangerous. Could be part of the deal he's making in the desert. We then get a new angle of Godzilla swimming up on what I believe is Bikini Atoll, because it has the same atomic bomb placed atop it. It's now sitting on its tower, ready to detonate, just like when we first saw it. This is a new angle from the opening credits of Godzilla 2014, placing us right in Godzilla's perspective. This shot also reveals the intro Godzilla reveal and the Hong Kong Godzilla reveal in Godzilla vs. Kong, tying the past of the MonsterVerse into the present. It's interesting that we're now seeing this from Godzilla's perspective, and gives me a little bit of hope that we will see a lot of Godzilla in this show, see new things from the way he saw them to try and empathize with that version of Godzilla a little more. Shaw stands in the desert and tells us, "If you come with me, I'll tell you everything, I promise. Something about this feels like it's revealing a twist that maybe he's not as good as he may have seemed. I feel like this is him being confronted by Kate and Kentaro or some other character, and it's possible that he's working with Hiroshi here and they don't know about that or like that. I also think it's possible that he could just die in this scene. I only say that because IMDb only lists Kurt Russell as being in 2 episodes of Monarch, and the MonsterVerse really likes to kill off big name talent in kind of unsatisfying ways, so they could continue the trend here. Because we see a few desert kaiju in the MonsterVerse and also in this trailer, he could be in big danger. This is a crazy interesting shot revealing a new crab titan, or maybe just super species based again on the size, attacking the ground, stabbing into a rock with trees in the background. I do think he's pretty huge. The lighting and kaiju design here remind me of Scylla from Godzilla King of the Monsters. The craziest part of this shot is in the background a massive, maybe bigger than ever before, green mother longlegs is visible. It's possible that this thing is a queen mother longlegs, like the enormous one that appears at the end of Skull Island, The Birth of Kong, and it's also possible that it's doing battle with this crab titan. It's also possible that this is the first time Godzilla ever fights a primarily Kong opponent, like an opponent made for a Kong movie, despite the fact that Kong has never gone toe-to-toe with it in live action yet, only in the comic books. Could also be like the MonsterVerse's version of Kumonga if this guy sticks around and survives. He could just grow bigger and bigger and bigger and become the MonsterVerse's substitute for Kumonga. That'd be awesome. This means we're most likely seeing yet another Skull Island Titan in this trailer. I think it's kind of crazy how much time it seems we may be spending on Skull Island in what was originally pitched as a Godzilla show. And because of that, because of this mother longlegs in the background, I don't know if we have seen any of Godzilla's opponents in this show yet. Like, this could just be another Skull Island fight and Godzilla never shows up. I also don't think Kong's gonna get involved with it. I just don't think that's gonna be the case. But if this is a mother longlegs fighting a crab monster on Skull Island, that means we still don't know who Godzilla's going up against in this show. Speaking of the mother longlegs, reminding us of her attack in the 2017 film, we see Bill Randa running through the jungle, most likely away from that giant spider. I'm not too sure where the big bulky camera in his hand comes from, considering we don't ever see him with it in the 2017 film, but I'm glad he has it here because now it justifies the fact that he films footage with it. The shot also looks really strangely soft, and I think it's because they're attempting a similar vignette to the RGB blur that was placed around the movie Kong Skull Island. That's a super small detail but important thing in the film that adds this dreamlike aesthetic to Skull Island, and it's wonderful to see Legacy of Monsters attempt to do something similar here. Could also be that the kind of reason that it's blurry and looks a little strange is because maybe it's just a VFX shot and they're trying to cover up the fact that this is a CGI'd John Goodman. We then see the Bat Titan bursting through old ruins. This gives us our best look at the creature and is why I don't think it's Camazotz, as it looks nothing like him. In fact, the only thing this guy resembles is the prehensile tentacles that come out of the graboid's mouth in Tremors. I think this creature's emergence is connected to a later shot we see in the trailer that we'll get back to. I think it's blasting through one of the many wrecked ships on Skull Island during the 1940s or 50s. Shout out to the beautiful coloring and cinematography in Kentaro's sunset shot. I don't really have anything to say about it other than that it looks wonderful. He seems to be pointing something out on a map, but it's not really a map I can read anything of other than the GPS coordinates, which track to a random desert in Africa that could be where Shaw and Hiroshi are. It's located near Outpost 68, where Baphomet sleeps in the MonsterVerse, and Baphomet is traditionally a winged goat-headed creature, not unlike the goat-horned winged creature we see in this trailer. Although I don't think that's where they're going with this, because I personally don't think any King of the Monsters Titans will appear in this show, but if any of them do, this is a likely contender. Outpost 68 is in Morocco, where Godzilla x Kong the New Empire was filmed, although I don't think these two locations are related, as Godzilla x Kong the New Empire was using that as a substitute for a different location in Africa. We then see a shot of a massive, rusty, overgrown ship falling over onto 3 people. And I think that this is on Skull Island, and just because I think it's unlikely that anybody revisits Skull Island in 2014 and doesn't bump into Monarch, who would be there already, I think this is set prior to the 2017 film, and I believe, if we're looking close, that this could be Bill Randa's first trip to Skull Island unbeknownst to him. He maybe somehow wound up here. The only reason I say this is because I think I can see Keiko here, and there's that photo of Keiko and Randa together, the promo photo. We also see who I think is maybe Shaw, meaning maybe Shaw visited Skull Island as well. It's also possible that the ship falling onto him could be his own USS Loden, as I do believe that this show will touch upon the events of the USS Loden, as that's a pretty big, important moment in Bill Randa's history, and it'd be kind of crazy to introduce a young Bill Randa and not show us the origins of how he got involved with Monarch. It could also just be another ship stranded on Skull Island. I don't know how they keep winding up in the middle of the surface, but maybe this big Bat Titan keeps grabbing them and just bringing them into the island because he thinks that's fun. I don't know. I think the ship is falling over here because of the kaiju bursting through the ruins in the previous shot. I think it's bursting through a ship like this. Now, the issues here with this being Skull Island, and again, it's entirely possible it's not. A lot of the filming in the 1940s and 50s was set in the Philippines, despite the fact that it was filmed on the actual Skull Island locations in Hawaii. Again, another reason I think this is really Skull Island is because if you look at those set photos, the mountain ranges in the background line up pretty much exactly with what we see here. I've also spotted Keiko in one of those set photos. We also have potential spottings of a young Lee Shaw in those set photos. So I think this could be on Skull Island because, again, this is the literal filming location for not only 2017's Skull Island, but also 2021's Skull Island. The issue with this being Skull Island is, like, how did Randa's ship wind up being stranded here when it makes it clear in the 2017 film that his ship was lost at sea with all of his men on it? He's the only survivor. How did Randa not notice he visited Skull Island twice? Why didn't Randa make it clear that the Titan that attacked the USS Loudon was a flying monster, or was not the only one he had seen, assuming they're two different Titans? In the 2017 film, when he's talking to Packard, and when he's talking to Brooks and says he wishes he was wrong about the Mutos existing upon their reunion after Kong's attack, he makes it clear that he's only seen one monster before and doesn't have definitive proof of it. But if a giant bat monster attacked a ship he was standing right next to and he saw the thing, I feel like that's pretty definitive proof, especially if one or both of these other people with him survive. Also, why didn't he just tell the government about this and get funding to go back to wherever he is here? If it is Skull Island, go back to Skull Island and try and kill these things a lot sooner. Also, if this is Skull Island, how'd they get off? That's crazy. Why didn't anybody else try whatever they try? Getting back to Godzilla, because this is a Godzilla show after all, despite the fact that you may not realize that, given how much emphasis is placed on the Skull Island of it all, we find ourselves in the middle of the Golden Gate chaos. Oh yeah, it seems Kate has found herself unfortunately stuck evacuating the bridge as Godzilla appears. One of the best sequences in the MonsterVerse, and I'm so hyped we're returning to it. Also, I freaking told you guys in many videos. I told you in a previous video that I thought we were going to get a Golden Gate attack, although I misidentified who would be on it. And I also said she's probably helping people out of that bus. And you know what? It seems Kate has found herself amidst the line of school buses that didn't make the gap in time before Godzilla crashes through the bridge. She has stopped to help children evacuate one of the buses before Godzilla winds up colliding with them. We then see a new, truly horrifying angle from inside a vehicle as Godzilla collides with the bridge, causing it to crack, sending them falling into the waters below. This shot actually mirrors a few things. First, when Godzilla's grabbing onto the suspension wires here, it mirrors the POV shot of him doing the same thing in the 2014 film that was taken from Sam's bus driver's angle. All the cars here plummeting down below is also reminiscent of the Golden Gate destruction from Pacific Rim. It's also nice to see us on a human scale during this attack again, because that's how Gareth Edwards filmed this attack, so it's cool to see it shot in a similar way. The tank also sitting here aiming up at Godzilla is right positioned where we last saw it in the 2014 film. What a wonderful touch. And then we get the final reveal shot here, this wonderful shot of Kate helping a child out in this bus as Godzilla is hit in the friggin' face with a missile before turning and roaring at her, and this almost certainly happens just seconds before he collides with that bridge. Godzilla's design here seems to be incredibly accurately restored to its 2014 self. It's just wonderful to see the old spines back in action. Godzilla's face also looks sharper and more box-like here, just like how it appeared in the 2014 film. His teeth are also a lot messier and more rugged than his 2019 design. I just love that they are going back to the way Godzilla used to be. This is truly a nearly perfect recreation of the 2014 Godzilla, and I can't notice any details that are incorrect about it just yet. We can also see some spit flying out of Godzilla's mouth, which is just a great touch, good attention to detail. It was done very well in Godzilla vs. Kong, so I'm glad to see they're doing that here. The color grading in this trailer, either when we're on Skull Island or on the Golden Gate Bridge, wonderfully recreates the exact feel of the respective films it's borrowing from, making this truly feel like an evolution of those two stories. King of the Monsters really messed up with the brown/orange San Francisco flashback that really took us all out of that sequence and made it feel less like a memory and more like a nightmare that did not reflect reality. So I'm glad to see that they are going with that 2014 aesthetic here, although I will say, I tried my best to line up Godzilla's attack on the Golden Gate Bridge here with the 2014 film, and they currently don't line up at all, but it's unknown exactly how it'll all play out in the actual show, so maybe you can put the two side by side and they'll play out perfectly. The new series logo is also just super slick. I love the hourglass being placed inside the A. That's a cool touch. It's also revealed here that the series will start streaming on November 17th, with I believe the first 1 or 2 episodes or something like that being released at the exact same time, and then it will release week to week on I believe the subsequent Fridays. 10 episodes in total, each about an hour long. Godzilla's supposed to appear a couple times at least over the course of the whole show. I'm very excited, man. I cannot wait. What do you think about the Monarch Legacy of Monsters trailer? Let me know down below. What are you most excited for going into this show? How much time do you think we're going to be spending on Skull Island? Do you think these two titans, this crab monster and this bat monster, are going to fight Godzilla? Or do you think they're going to be more like substitute monsters that we just see sprinkled throughout the show that will do battle with each other or themselves or whatever? Who do you think Godzilla is going to fight in this show? Because he's definitely going to fight somebody. Do you think that was Baphomet? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below. I'm very curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are. That's the time we have for this one, guys. I would love to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. Big thank you, guys. I really appreciate the support I get on the Patreon. It's through the support on the Patreon that videos like this are possible, because these take a lot of time, and the support on the Patreon really helps out with that. If you want to check out the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. That'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.